All right, so I'm going to start. It's great again to be here. It's for me the third time to be at this conference. First time for me actually to be in Mumbai, which is quite exciting to me. So I'm going to give a presentation a little bit to give you some insights what it is to be, or it's to be like to work with Germans, or let's say Europeans, especially with Germans. And the thing is, it is not about only working with Germans in special. It is more about working with other cultures. So what we see is that, or what I'm going to talk is a little bit more about the cultural challenge we face during working together. And so let's jump on this topic, the challenge of working with other cultures. And we have, or what we see is there are three main topics here, three big main topics. And one thing, what we always see when we're working with each other, and that does not mean different continents. We have that in Europe the same. I mean, Europe consists of 44 countries, so with a lot of different specialities and culture types. So what we see is that we have different initial impressions, and also the language can be misleading. For example, I mean, if we are working with Americans, and probably I don't know how it is here, but if people from America coming to Europe and they are talking about a Beamer, for example, they're meaning, in most of the cases, they're meaning this one. Because in the US and probably here, Beamer is this one. If you're going to Germany and you say, hey, I have a Beamer, then a German understands this one, a video projector. Because in Germany, a Beamer is a BMW and not a video projector. So this is a completely misunderstanding what can happen only by using the wrong terms and the wrong language. So this is one. Second of all, behavior can be completely interpreted differently. And for example, I mean, this is a very, very famous picture from two men, and they're kissing, and that is kind of misleading probably, because this is not because of their social state. That does not mean that they're gay. This is the socialist fraternal kiss, and this was, I mean, happening between the Russian leader Brezhnev and the Eastern German leader Erich Honecker 30 years ago roundabout. And this was meant if someone was really close, or politics from the sociology that were really close, then they were kissing not on the cheeks but instead on the mouth. So this is also a very good example for something which could be really intercultural misleading. Another thing is, and this is a really funny thing, because I talked to a lot of different people from different cultures, and most of the people find it quite awkward. And so different rules often apply, and there are a couple of different rules, of course. And in Germany there is one rule, and for example, if you're going, and this is what most of the Germans love to do that in the winter, because right now it's quite cold in Germany. So right now at my place it's like -5 degrees, and we have a little bit of snow. This time, or this year, we have not really much, so like only a couple of centimeters. A year ago when I was here, it was like a meter high. So during this time of the year, during the winter, Germans love to go to the sauna, to the sweat lodge. And this is something which is awkward to other countries or other people, because this is a rule and this is applying in Germany, and nobody is finding that awkward. In the sauna, you're always naked. It does not mean, I mean, in terms of race, anything, everybody is naked in the sauna, and this is something which is quite awkward to people. That even if you're a colleague, or if you're doing business with someone, you're always going naked to the sauna. So this is another rule. This is a different rule, and these different rules often apply. So what does that mean? I mean, challenges of working with other cultures in general. What is normal to you? And this is what you have to keep in mind. What is normal to you may not be normal in other cultures. So really, really, really important. So, and there is a quite good path of handling different cultures from a sociologist, and he did a study around that, and bringing all different areas and different countries in a kind of a context. And they're talking about the lower context and the higher context. And what does that mean in terms of the communication? That means that a high context, so it's like countries, especially Asian countries, South Africans, also South European countries tend to be in a higher context, and that means that the communication tends to be more and more indirect. So the communication is more indirect. That means it is harmoniously. It's also understated somehow. And in conversations, people are expected to speak one after another. And disagreements, and this is something which is also very important when you're talking with Germans, because you see we are in a lower context with Swiss, for example, or the Swedes. We are in a lower context, and so disagreements are in a higher context. Disagreements are personally threatening, which is completely the opposite for Germans, for example. So if we are talking about the low context, that means that communication tends to be more and more linear. It tends to be more and more precise, also dramatic, and it tends to be very open. So you have to keep that in mind. So if you're asking someone in German, this is something what the people from the US quite often make this mistake. If you ask someone from Germany how he is feeling, you probably might get a shocking answer, because they really tell you open how they are feeling. It's not about, like you go to the US and you ask, how are you? I'm fine, I'm good, how are you? No, if you're asking that a German, then probably you might need a couple of more minutes, because they're really explaining how they are feeling, quite open. So this is a different thing. So let's talk about, in general, let's talk about culture. What is culture anyway? I mean, the culture is or are all the beliefs and values and norms shared by a group of or a bunch of people. And it's also patterned ways, or the patterned ways of thinking, feeling and reacting. So culture is basically learned. So you grow up with your culture. And this is something you cannot really easily change, because it's a patterned way. It's kind of you can kind of think of it like a framework which forms the rules, norms, and the assumptions which guides behaviors. And the interesting part of culture is because some parts of the culture, they're on the surface, and that's the problem. The bigger parts of the culture are not. So it's like the iceberg of culture. So you see there is a couple of things what you see. So it's on the surface, and it's material things, it's behavior, it's the language, how we express ourselves. So this is the one part. But the even much bigger part, and this is the part where it's getting serious, is the thing which is below the waterline. So, and this is all the norms that defines the culture. There are the beliefs, the assumption, and the most important, the values which are relying to the culture. So, let's talk about some lessons for cross-cultural competence or cross-cultural interactions. And I've learned over the years, when working with a lot of people across the globe, 7 lessons. 1. Don't assume sameness. I mean, we are all different. Even in the same culture, we are different. So don't assume sameness. Really important. 2nd, be aware that values and norms might not be shared with your opponent or opposite. That's just normal. 3, familiar behaviors may have completely different meanings. We've learned that. I mean, a beamer is different in the US or here than it is in Germany. So keep that in mind. Don't assume that what you meant is what has been understood. Really important. I mean, this is one of the main topics. Don't assume that what you meant is what has been understood. And then 5, don't assume that what you understood is what somebody want to tell you. So what was meant initially. And another thing which helped me a lot, and this is something which, I mean, you probably don't want to go naked to the sauna, for example, I don't know. You don't have to like different behavior. You don't have to like, but you should at least try to understand why it is like it is, you know. And anyway, you can't change. So, and the final one, and this is, I think, the biggest and most important part to get into the cross-cultural competence learning, because most people, and that's true, I mean, there might be exceptions, but most people do behave rationally. The only thing what you have to keep in mind and what you have to find out, what their rational is. So you have to just discover what is the rational part of them. So most people, they don't want to harm, they don't want to do anything evil, so it's just their norms or their beliefs or their values. So keep that in mind. So cross-cultural competence. What is cross-cultural competence? So it's the awareness of how the values and norms and also the rules of your own culture influences your own emotions. So it's the understanding of yourself, how your norms and your values and how do you behave, how they are influencing your emotion and your reaction to something. So the values, norms and rules of foreign cultures, and to respect them is also a part of the awareness of the cross-competence culture. So that means this is a solid foundation for intercultural learning and acting adequately with others, with foreigners, with other cultures. So let's step a little bit more into the main topic, because initially we said we are going to talk about Europeans and especially Germans. So I think it's now the time to give you some learning. I don't know, maybe you know a lot of these parts, what I tell you already, but I try to give you some insights. So first of all, we are talking about Europe, and there is always kind of, I would not say misunderstanding, but Europe is a little bit misdefined somehow. So first of all, if you're working with bigger companies, like for example Adobe, then regionally wise they have this, they have the globe a little bit differentiated in different, or they have the globe differentiated in a couple of regions, and one region is EMEA. So EMEA is not Europe, it's Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So we have already 2 different continents, which makes it a little bit more interesting. But let's step into Europe. So Europe is the central part here, and Europe consists of 2 areas. I mean, because we have, the continental Europe, and we have the European Union, which are different things. So let's talk about Europe. Europe has around about 10 million square kilometers of area. We have around about population of 700, a little bit more than 700 million people, so not that much. 44 countries in Europe and 28 actually in the European Union. So that's Europe. And it is already, we have in Europe, and this is quite interesting, as you have seen with the lower and higher context, we have already developed different cultures in Europe. But let's jump into Germany, because Germany is, I would say, I'm coming out from Germany, and Germany, not because I am coming out from there and proud of my German folks, it's a really, really nice economy. And it's the biggest economy in Europe. We have 83 million people living in Germany with a gross domestic product of around about 3,500 billion euro. And we are the champions in exporting. So 1.3 billion euro we are exporting. So Germany, what's that? Give you some insights and some stereotypes probably, but I mean, behind some stereotype there's always a little bit of truth. So Germany, what's that? Germany is bratwurst, so that means the sausage or the hot dog, with our fearless leader Angela Merkel, called Angie. And of course, I mean, the Germans, and this is something what you might have seen, the Germans love to drink beer. And we love our beer happenings like the Oktoberfest, and we love to wear lederhosen. Sometimes I do also when I do talks. I wear a lederhosen, it's very comfortable, it's cozy, I love it, and we always like these cozy gatherings in the beer gardens. So Germans really love it. But that doesn't mean that we always drink. So we drink, but not always. So then on the other hand, and this is, I think, why Germany in some cases they're quite popular and famous. That's Germany. We are super structured, organized, accurate, pedantic. That can be good, that can be also worse and pain in the ass for sure. But we also are reliable, so we are very strict in a lot of things. If you have ever been to Germany, everything is really super straight organized. So, and this is sometimes, I mean, I like it sometimes, but sometimes it gives me also the creeps, because it's sometimes a little bit too much. Anyway, but I mean, Germany is changing over the last, I would say, 20 years a lot, and especially the last five years. And probably you've heard about the immigrants we had and the waves of immigrants, and so that's quite interesting because Germany is getting more and more diverse, which is a good thing for me and for my generation. I mean, I completely see it in that way because globalization is a great thing if we know if we know how to deal with it, and this is something what I mean we have to change also for that. So let's talk about numbers, and now we're bringing numbers and bringing e-commerce and bringing working a little bit more and more together. So I try to do that at least. So let's talk about numbers, because the German market is a very interesting market, and that's not only, I mean, because a huge amount of the population are heavy internet users. We have 67 million of daily internet users in Germany, and that is, I mean, that's massive. If you think we have 80 million in general or in total population. 47 million buyers. And buyers mean buyers on a regular basis. On a regular basis is at least once in a month. So 47 people are constantly buying in Germany online. And we have run about in B2C business 40 billion euro revenue in e-commerce space, only in e-commerce. If you look at the whole e-commerce market in Germany, with B2B, it's more than 700 billion euro in revenue. So a huge market, a really huge market. And this market is still growing by 10% year over year, which is nice. So, so we have a kind of predicted growth rate. So it tends to be that hopefully by like, let's say 22, 23, we will somehow, if it's getting a little bit more dynamic, we will hit probably around about 100 billion euro in revenue, in e-commerce revenue over year. So the interesting part in Germany in the e-commerce space is, that it's dominated by Amazon. So that's you see heavily here. We are 34% of the e-commerce revenue B2C in Germany generated by only Amazon. So it's a third of the whole e-commerce market. And then we have two other big German local players, Otto and Zalando, and the other 56% of the e-commerce revenue, I mean, from the other 56%, half of the 56% is by the 100 biggest internet or e-commerce retailers. So really huge players in Germany, which with a really high competition. It's a really, really challenging and competitive market, but still, again, it's a very interesting market to serve, definitely. So, what you should know, and now we were talking a little bit about working with Germans and what you should know when you're working with Germans. So again, more than 80 million people. We have, the capital is Berlin with 3.5 million in population. It's the biggest city in Germany. We have a couple of other major cities in comparison to other countries like India or China, all small cities. So it's very, very, very cozy somehow. We have Hamburg, Munich. I come from Munich, by the way. We have Cologne with a little bit more than 1 million people living there. Part of the European Union. Our main language is German, so if you're considering working for a longer period with German, then it is not too bad if you're able to speak at least a little bit of German, even if it's not the easiest language to learn. The common second language is English and Russia. I have to say, and this is something what I'm a little bit proud, because I have really seen that in Germany, the English language skills are getting better and better. Because 15 years ago, or let's say 20 years ago, when I started my professional career, it was completely different. A lot of people, I mean, it's the change of generations also. A lot of people were not really able to speak English, or probably that they didn't trust in their language skills, because this is a habit from Germans. They only want to do something if they are able to do it good. So we come to that in a bit. So, but it's changing. It's changed as we are going more, and the diversity in German is getting bigger and bigger. We are, or the language skills in English, what you see in German is getting better and better. So this is quite good for working with Germans. So they are very well aware how to express themselves in English. Our currency is, of course, the euro, the currency of the European Union, and a couple of wordings what we have here. So hello is hallo, guten Tag, bye, auf Wiedersehen, yes, ja, no, nein. Pretty easy, I would say. Thanks, danke, please, bitte. And the most important things, cheers, Prost. So this is something what you definitely need, because you will, once you go to the Oktoberfest, it's every 15 minutes there is a music playing, and everybody is doing the holding up the Moss group, which is the cup of beer, the glass of beer up in the air, and then everybody's telling Prost. So that's really important. So let's go ahead. Working approach, and this is, I think, this is our key topics. The working approach, and this is something, and I read an article yesterday when I flew over from Munich to here, which gave me a little bit, some minutes to think about, and I want to share that also. Our working approach is, I would not say it's written down 105% quality driven. I would say 120. So this is really, I mean, the Germans, they are sucker for quality. So really, this is their sucker for perfectionism, so that they really love to deliver, and we are not going to deliver if it's not at least 105%. And this can be a good thing, because we made our country out of this brand Made in Germany, which is a good thing. Globally, it's well recognized for big and good quality. But this is also, this was the thing what the article yesterday I read said. This prevents us from being fast. And being fast is the big thing in our time now, because if you think about innovation, we have to be fast. And if you always want to deliver quality on a 105% level, you cannot do that fast, because you need a lot of more quality assurance testing over and over. So this is something what I assume it's going to change a little bit, but again, when we come to the cultural values, this is really a part of the German behavior and the norm and the value. So it's really deep under the surface implemented, and you cannot get it out easily. So you have to understand, nobody, if you work with Germans, nobody wants you punish. I mean, it's just, this is the norm. This is the norm, the belief. Everybody learned it from the preschool on to the university, that quality is the main thing. So another part is we thinking through the whole project by identifying and fixing problems before rollout. So it's really well planned, everything. Most of the things are well planned. The Berlin airport was unfortunately not. So this is a big issue for Germans right now. Don't go to Germany and make this joke, because that's really thin ice, I would say. So we're really result orientated. The style of communication, this is something which I said in the context, in the low context, it's quite direct. I would say it's polite. It's polite, but it's direct, it's open. You will get an honest answer. That's really important. And what is a really big part here is more written than verbal. I mean, Germany is the country for the poets and the philosopher. So that means more written than verbal. There is a German expression, and it says, wer schreibt, der bleibt, which means if you write it down, you will stay forever. So the communication is tending to be more written than verbal. Normally, and this is something what you can count in a business, especially in the business environment where Germans are quite responsive. And another part is meeting culture. So we have in smaller groups shake hands and sharp in time. So don't come too late, especially to job interviews. That's a no-go. So if you do have web calls, don't come too late. Be sharp in time. From the business attitude, the Germans are super deal focused. So really focusing on closing their objectivism and the agreements and the contracts. And this is something what is, I would say, interesting. They will be kept and they will be fulfilled. So you can rely, if you have a contract, a payment contract or a payment plan with a company from Germany, I put my hand in the fire that it will be fulfilled. Even something is going wrong or whatever, they're really sharp on that one. A really big part is still it's still like that. I mean, it's changing already a little bit, but a don't is completely, don't compare situations with the Nazi history of Germany. Not even as a joke. It's not a good one for most of the Germans. I mean, the younger generation is a little bit different, because it was a really, Holocaust is a really dramatic thing, but it was not our fault. I mean, it was not even my father's fault. My father was born in 49, so after the war already. So it is not our fault, but I mean, it's still a lot of people in Germany have this, I mean, norm and behavior, so don't do it. German travel, yeah, we have a couple of main airports, and what is really important, and I've heard that from a lot of people, the trains are working very well in Germany also. I mean, I always complain that the trains are late, but most of the people from outside of Germany saying the trains are great. Payment, I mean, payment is done through credit cards, basically, and cash. So we are accepting, or Germans accepting Visa, MasterCard, also American Express. And we're doing an online payment, we're doing a heavily PayPal. PayPal is a big thing in Germany. Even in the payment, when you pay your friend, for example, you use PayPal. You send that's a PayPal me is a quite it's a term in Germany. So if you own someone, let's say €20, €20 for a lunch, then it's heavy likely that he says PayPal me. And that means give me the money through PayPal. So yeah, the dress code, mainly business casual, in custom meetings, important for our industry, shirt and jacket, ties are not necessary in our industry, even sneakers are fine, I mean, look at this. So yeah, tips, we have tips, I mean, but this is also interesting, the waiters and people in restaurants, they are not getting paid by the tip. So we have a secured loan, so their a salary, so 10 to 15%, but then it's decreasing when the amount you spend is getting higher. So we are coming to the final conclusion almost, but one really important part is, I would say, the employment facts, because that might interest you when you want to work for a German company, for example. So we have in Germany a couple of different hiring alternatives, and the most popular thing is the permanent contract. So I would say 90% of the people are employed through a permanent contract. Then we have temporary contract, which is a contract on time for 1 or 2 years, for example. We have agency temporary, and freelancing, of course, is popular. The average annual vacation on a permanent contract is 30 days. Probation period is up to 6 months, which is quite normal. And we have usually a notice period of 3 months by the end of the month or end of the quarter. Depends a little bit. And this is something which is really, I mean, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs from different countries, and this is what they're saying. I cannot completely not understand how that is going to happen and how this is working. Termination in Germany is almost impossible. It's really, I mean, there are some possibilities, but you cannot fire your employees in Germany. This is if they're over the probation period, your hands are tied normally, legally wise. So the only cause could be if there is stealing or violence involved, then you can fire the employees with immediate effect. On performance or a behavioral issue, you have to do written warnings, up to 3 are required. And you have to write it down in a performance plan, performance increase plan. And so, but this is really heavy to do so. What the main terminations in Germany are done through settlement agreements. And settlement agreements normally meaning that the termination, you get for the termination a settlement payment or severance payment between 0.5 to 2 monthly payments for every year of your service. So that's normally the possibility for termination in Germany. Yeah, reference, if you apply, reference letters are mandatory, and don't wonder if people are asking for testimonials. It's quite common that former employees are getting called before, so this is a quite normal procedure. So, conclusion. Solving the difference in business culture is not that hard if you know what to do and how you have to behave. First of all, I mean, don't stereotype. There are stereotypes, of course, but do that on a cultural level, it's not a good idea anyway. Every culture has its own behaviors, every culture has its own beliefs, and try to understand that different cultures behave different. So build cultural bridges by understanding your opposite. So this is the first thing. Try to understand, and then, I mean, doors will open automatically. Don't divide, and this is, I mean, this accounts for, I would say, in most of the business cases, don't divide in them and us. It's always, I mean, we all live on this planet, it's a we thing. So when we're working together, it's a we thing, don't divide in them and us. And I think the most important thing is for intercultural working, see the difference as a chance for another point of view. Because, I mean, another point of view brings innovation out. I mean, look, just be open, be open, be sharp, be smart, and try to understand what is behind the norm and the behavior of your opposite. And I think if you do so, if you behave like that, then with any other culture, you are doing great. Not only with the Germans, but yeah, it will work out for almost every place on that planet, I would say. So thank you for your time, the attendance, and have a good one.